In the autumn of 1781, Lieutenant General Charles Cornwallis believed he was holding the high ground. Stationed at the small Virginia port of Yorktown, his 8,000 British veterans sat secured on a peninsula, waiting for the undisputed ruler of the seas, the Royal Navy, to resupply them and crush the rebellion once and for all. He didn't know that 450 miles to the north, George Washington had already set the ultimate trap. Within weeks, French ships would lock the bay, Franco-American trenches would inch toward his redoubts, and the powerful British Empire would find itself with no food, no ammunition, and absolutely no way out. In the cold October mud of 1781, trench spades bit deep into the rain-slicked earth of Virginia. Every flash of artillery illuminated men who knew the end was near. Lord Cornwallis sat trapped behind earthworks, listening to the thundering rhythm of an enemy that was supposed to be weak, disorganized, and starving. Cornwallis raised his brass spyglass toward the horizon of the Chesapeake Bay. He didn't see the white sails of the Royal Navy coming to rescue his 8,000 men. Instead, he saw the fleur-de-lis of France. The greatest navy on earth had vanished, leaving him completely abandoned. How did an elite British army, led by one of Parliament's most aggressive generals, walk straight into a strategic death trap? This is the story of Yorktown, the tactical blunder, naval gambit, and siege that shattered an empire. Look closely at the geography of Yorktown. Situated on a narrow peninsula jutting into the York River, it was a position that offered incredible defense, provided you owned the sea. Without naval superiority, that same peninsula becomes an inescapable cage. Months earlier, Cornwallis had marched his army ragged across the American South. He chased militia through forests, won Pyrrhic victories, and bled his regiments dry. He needed a deep water port to rest, resupply, and evacuate his wounded. He chose Yorktown. His engineers threw up timber palisades and dirt ramparts, secure in the belief that the Royal Navy ruled the Atlantic. It was a logical choice based on 2 centuries of British naval dominance. It would prove to be a fatal mistake. 450 miles to the north, General George Washington received word that would change the war. The French Caribbean fleet under Admiral de Grasse was sailing for the Chesapeake. Washington instantly recognized the split-second opportunity to strike. But to pull it off, Washington had to pull off a massive deception. He left dummy camps with glowing fires and small garrisons near New York, fooling British commander Sir Henry Clinton into believing a grand attack on New York City was imminent. While Clinton waited for an attack that never came, Washington's Continental Army slipped away. Joined by French forces under Rochambeau, 12,000 men embarked on a grueling high-speed march south under the scorching late summer sun. Meanwhile, Admiral de Grasse brought 28 warships of the line north from the West Indies. Packed with troops, guns, and gold, the French fleet was racing to slam the ocean door shut before the British realized what was happening. On September 5th, the British Royal Navy finally arrived off the Virginia Capes to relieve Cornwallis. What followed was a brutal naval engagement. Broadside after broadside ripped through wooden hulls as French and British warships clashed for control of the bay. When the smoke cleared, the British fleet was battered and forced to retreat to New York for repairs. For the first time in memory, the Royal Navy had failed to secure the sea. Cornwallis's lifeline was officially severed. By late September, the trap slammed shut. Washington and Rochambeau arrived outside Yorktown, surrounding the British perimeter on land, while the French fleet blocked the sea. Cornwallis was outnumbered 2-1. What followed was a textbook European siege. guided by French engineers using the precise mathematical doctrines of Vauban. The plan was slow, methodical, and completely unstoppable. Construct parallel trenches, move heavy artillery forward, and dismantle the fort brick by brick. Under the cover of dark, moonless nights, thousands of Franco-American soldiers dug the first parallel line just 600 yards from the British redoubts. They worked in absolute silence, shovel by shovel, under the noses of British sentries. On October 9th, heavy siege guns opened fire. Washington himself aimed the first American gun. For days, an endless rain of iron shells slammed into Yorktown, turning timber palisades to splinters and earthworks to dust. Inside Yorktown, life became a nightmare. Redcoats huddled in crumbling cellars alongside civilian refugees. Disease spread rapidly, food ran out, and constant night bombardments ensured no soldier could sleep. Cornwallis penned a desperate message to Clinton in New York. "If you cannot relieve me very soon, you must prepare to hear the worst." But no help was coming. To finish the second parallel trench, the Allies had to breach two fortified earthworks jutting out from the British line, redoubts 9 and 10. Heavy cannon fire alone couldn't clear them. They had to be taken by storm. A young, ambitious Alexander Hamilton lobbied Washington relentlessly for the honor of leading the assault on Redoubt 10. Seeking glory on the battlefield, Hamilton was given command of the American column. On the night of October 14th, Hamilton ordered his men to fix bayonets and remove the flints from their muskets. Not a single shot was to be fired. Silence was their only armor. At the signal, the Americans sprinted through the darkness. Sashing through sharpened wooden abatis with axes, they surged up the dirt ramparts under a hail of British musket fire, taking Redoubt 10 in under 10 minutes using cold steel alone. Simultaneously, the French Gâtinais Regiment launched a fierce assault on Redoubt 9. Despite heavy casualties, their disciplined line pressed forward, clearing the ramparts and securing the position. By midnight, both redoubts were secured and incorporated into the Allied trench lines. American artillery was now placed at point-blank range, capable of sweeping the entire inner British position. Cornwallis made one last desperate attempt to escape, loading his troops onto small boats to cross the York River under dark skies. But a sudden, violent storm scattered the boats, destroying his final gamble. On the morning of October 17th, a solitary British drummer boy stepped onto the parapet, beating a parley beside an officer waving a white flag. The thundering cannons fell silent across Yorktown. At the nearby Moore House, officers met to negotiate the surrender. Washington demanded strict terms, denying the British full honors of war in retaliation for their harsh treatment of captured American forces earlier in the South. On October 19, 1781, over 7,000 British soldiers marched out in slow formation between long lines of French and American troops, stacking their muskets in massive piles on the field. As the Redcoats surrendered their weapons, their military band played an old British tune titled "The World Turned Upside Down." The tactical trap at Yorktown had broken the political resolve of King George III and Parliament. Yorktown was more than just a defeat. It was the turning point that sealed the independence of a new superpower. Subscribe to Minuteman for more deep dives into the tactics, blunders, and battles that forged history.